Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode. I had a new house disaster today because I'm trying to paint and I don't really know anything about painting. And we washed our rollers and I ruined 2 out of 3.
What?
Well, I didn't get all the paint off and I thought I did. It seemed like they were clean.
Oh, no.
Right? So then I was mad because I paid money for those and I hate wasting money and they were like crusty with paint. So then I tried with the third one. I was like, oh, this one came out clean. Perfect. And it felt dry. So then I poured out a bunch of paint and then I started painting my living room and it apparently was not dry. And I don't know if you've ever had water in wall paint.
No, but I can only imagine how
it was
runny
an absolute disaster.
it must
yes,
be.
runny and like bubbly and like couldn't spread it. Just kept making a mess on my walls.
What?
Yes, then I had an emotional breakdown and cried a little.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Then I got in my car and I bought new rollers.
You went and bought new rollers? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like $50 deep in rollers now.
Oh my gosh. That's not really like well-known information though, like unless you talk to somebody who's done it before or
No, and it felt
I guess
dry.
Googled it. How to wash paint rollers. It's not even something I would have thought about at all because I've never obviously painted anything in my life.
Yeah.
Or I do it with people who already have it set up for me anyway.
Yeah, well, hot tip, rollers are really annoying. And I went to the internet and I was like, how do you clean rollers? And they said to just put it in the sink and like squeeze all the paint and water and stuff out. And I did that, but apparently I wasn't good.
Ugh, that's really unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and then I bought really fancy rollers the first time because I was like, oh, I want the best rollers.
Mm-hmm.
But I bought cheaper rollers this time.
Well, hopefully they spread paint just as well.
Yeah, I'm just annoyed. I wanted to paint my house, but now I frigged up that one wall with... Luckily, that was just the primer paint, but it was still
right
annoying because then I gotta wait for it to dry so I can sand it and fix it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. What a process that would be. And it's, well... I don't think this would affect you because you have really good heat pumps in your house, but it's really hot and sticky out. I don't know if the humidity makes it into your house at all, but...
No, our house is pretty cool, which is good because we're going through a heat wave.
Yeah, it's really, really freaking hot. I went away this weekend and my apartment was closed down, so all my windows were shut, all my blinds were shut, so no sun could get in, but it is like stuffy, like humid in here. And I didn't want to turn my air conditioner on because then I'd have noise in the background while we record. I knew we were recording. So that'll have to wait until after we're done.
So you'll just have to suffer for our art.
That's right. Exactly. It's worth it.
You say that now.
True.
Check back in an hour.
Yeah, that's right. We'll see how much sweat is literally dripping off my face.
See, I'm a cactus, so I would love that.
Yes, we should switch places and I can have the heat pump.
Mine is really cold. I have to wear full sweaters. Like right now I'm wearing a full sweater.
I'm like in a tank top like and it's like sticking to my skin. All right, well, let's rub it in, Nikki.
Yeah, my house is cold. My husband loves it and I hate it, but
oh man,
here
just
we
step
are.
Outside for a moment.
Honestly, that's what I find when I work in here. I find it so cold. I feel like I need to wear gloves because my hands are always out because I work from home, so they're typing on my keyboard.
Right.
And I get so freaking cold. And then I go outside for my lunch break to warm up, and it's so nice. I did buy one of those happy lights, though, and I find that warms me up.
Happy lights?
Yeah, it's a brand called Happy Light, and it's light therapy.
Oh, okay. Like getting a vitamin D sort of thing.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So I bought one and it's supposed to be like good light therapy and it's supposed to make you kind of happy and like give you an energy boost and stuff like that. And because of where my office is in my new house, I'm on the lower level. So I only have one little window and it brings in good light, but it's not all kinds of large windows, which is what I was used to.
Right. It does look like it's giving you some good
I know.
light on the side
it's
of
right
your
in
face.
my eyes right
You're
now.
You're very bright. Yeah, exactly.
I look like I'm the person you go to for the quest in a video
That's
game.
right. You need a halo over your head.
Yeah. Well, shall we get into some crime?
Please do.
My category, I got the nat 20 last week, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so I picked best frenemies.
That's right.
Did you ever have any frenemies?
Not really. I'm just trying to think back. I don't hold grudges against people. Like it's just not in me to hold a grudge.
Yeah.
So I'm not friends with people who I have any kind of animosity towards. And it's not that we wouldn't get along if we hung out again. It's just, why do it? So I don't keep them in my life, I guess.
See, that sounds like you do hold grudges.
No, I don't hold the grudge against them because I let it go. I just let it all go. But if they came back into my life, I wouldn't push them away. Like, it would be more like I would see where they were at in their life and see if things had changed or whatever the case may be. And if it was better, great, then I'd bring them back into my life. But if not, then, and it happens naturally. It's not like I'm like, okay, I don't want to hang out with you anymore, so let's just part ways. It just happens naturally. Like, I don't know. It's just a thing. I keep people close that I like, where we have like-minded things that we want to do and whatnot. So it's just kind of a natural thing that happens.
Oh.
What about you?
Well, I'm a grudge holder, so I'm
Are
the
you?
opposite. Yeah. Yeah, if you wrong me, I probably will never forgive you, nor speak to you again. So
okay,
that's
well,
a little
that's
insight into who Megan and I are.
good to know. Totally fair, though.
Today, our case, we are going to Troy, Missouri. We are going to be learning about a lovely lady named Betsy Faria. She was a loving wife to her husband, Russ Faria, and a wonderful mom to 2 daughters. Betsy was said to be bubbly and very warm-hearted. She had lots of friends and everyone really adored her. She seemed to kind of have one of those very sunny personalities that kind of just draws people in. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in 2010, Betsy was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so she started treatments right away to try and fight it. During this time, a previous coworker and friend named Pamela Hupp became a great support system for Betsy. Their friendship had kind of gotten cold over the years, but once Pam learned of her cancer diagnosis, the two kind of reconnected and they started up their friendship again, and Pam just really wanted to be there for her.
Nice.
Yeah, which I read, like, you know, that can happen a lot too. If somebody gets a very bad diagnosis, you know, can kind of rekindle old friendships and stuff, and people come back because they want to connect with that person again.
For sure, yeah. I understand that completely, wanting to make sure that you have that kind of relationship with somebody before, you know, in case something happens, because you never know, and it's not worth not reconnecting and rekindling a friendship or whatever.
Absolutely. Betsy went to regular chemotherapy appointments throughout the year, and she went through a lot of suffering. It wasn't easy, and she had a lot of bad reactions to it. But she was really strong, and in 2011, she thought that she had beaten her cancer. Betsy and her husband planned a celebration of life cruise in November of that year, 2011, to kind of mark the occasion.
That's awesome.
Right.
I mean, I don't know where you're going with the story, but as of right now, I'm very happy for her and what the plan
let me
is.
just flip you completely around. In October, they found out that the cancer had spread to her liver.
Oh, God, no.
And she was terminal.
No, that's so sad.
Very much so. The couple still went on the cruise, and their family and some friends came. And Russ was even able to make one of Betsy's dreams come true, which was swimming with dolphins.
Oh, really? Oh, I would love to do that. That sounds so lovely.
When she came back from her cruise, her BFF, Pam, tried to really spend as much time as possible with Betsy. Pam would even join Betsy on daily activities, because I know Betsy really liked to do tennis. She had tennis lessons and games. So Pam would go and just, you know, watch and hang out with her. Mm-hmm. She would also drive her to her chemo and take her home afterwards. Betsy was super grateful for the company and just kind of having somebody with her day to day. when Betsy started looking at her end-of-life planning, she was kind of worried that her daughters and her husband wouldn't be able to manage the insurance money that she was going to leave them. So she did have a life insurance policy for $150,000. And the family never had a lot of money. You know, they just did okay. So she was really worried that they would kind of blow the money all at once, where she really wanted them to keep it and use it for the girls when they got older. I feel like that's valid, especially if someone has never had a lot of money before. To suddenly come into a huge lump sum, you might feel like you can go buck wild.
I don't know if this is even a possibility, but having that end of life plan that the money would go, or a part of the money would go to a financial advisor, and they're required to go meet with the financial advisor and discuss her end of life wishes, what to do with the money, and the financial advisor would help advise them on that. I don't know if that's even an option that could happen or what.
Conveniently, I used to be a financial consultant.
Oh, interesting. Would you happen
I do
to know
have
the
knowledge
answer to this question?
Yeah, you can have it put in a trust.
Okay.
And you can indicate in your, will and the instructions for the trust that the girls, don't access it until this time or something like that, or until they reach this age, or until like a certain event happens, or, some people just leave it with someone that they trust that wouldn't spend the money, like a neutral person or somebody really responsible to be like, yeah, it's for the girls, but you need to be the beneficiary and manager of this.
Right. That makes sense.
So Betsy's dad, Ken, he remembers Betsy asking that summer before she had the terminal diagnosis, or he asked her that summer if she felt like she had a good financial plan in place for the daughters. And Betsy admitted to him that she was really worried about it. So she asked her dad to come out to one of her chemo treatments and sit with her so they could discuss it and he could give her advice on how to do it. So I'm assuming, what I just talked about, planning something like that for the girls.
Oh, it sounds like he would have had the knowledge for it. So
yeah,
good person to ask.
When he arrived, Pam was already sitting with Betsy.
Oh.
He felt like they couldn't really talk about it with her there. Just because, talking about money and stuff like that, especially because he didn't really know Pam that well.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were friends their whole life. They were coworkers who were friends, and then they just kind of rekindled this friendship.
Right.
So he planned on going to a future treatment with her so that they could discuss it, but Pam didn't miss an appointment going forward.
Really? Did she happen to know that this was a conversation that they were going to have and wanted to butt in, or
unclear? I don't know
like
about
Betsy
that.
Could have been like, hey, I'm gonna have my dad sit with me today, so thank you so much for the offer to sit with me, but I'm gonna sit with my dad as we have some personal things to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna see how Pam feels about that in a minute.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so on December 27th, Pam showed up at Betsy's mom's apartment to take her to her treatment. Her mom, Janet Meyer, told Pam that Betsy had already left for the treatment. And Pam was super confused because she thought she was taking Betsy to the appointment.
Okay.
So a friend of Betsy's mom named Bobby, who used to babysit Betsy, was in town. So she took Betsy so that they could spend some time together. So I guess they hadn't seen each other in a while. And, with her diagnosis, it was most likely going to be the last chance she had to spend any time with her, so she's the one that took her. Pam should have known this, though, because Betsy actually texted her earlier telling her that she wanted some one-on-one time with Bobby, so Pam didn't have to be at the treatment with them. But still, Pam drove out to the Siteman Cancer Center in St. Peter's and sat with Betsy and Bobby during the treatment. She told Betsy she never received the text saying that she wanted to be alone with Bobby. Later on, Bobby recalls that Betsy seemed pretty surprised that Pam just showed up, especially after telling her. After her treatment, Betsy went back to her mom's apartment to spend some more time with Bobby. The plan was that after the treatment, Betsy was going to wait at her mom's house, and then her husband would pick her up from there and take her home. This was a Tuesday, which was Russ's usual game night with his friends. and his friend's house was only 5 minutes from her mom's place.
Mm-hmm.
So this was their normal Tuesday routine.
Okay.
Is that she would wait at her mom's place, and then Russ would pick Betsy up at the mom's because he was so close, and then they would drive home together.
Mm-hmm.
Russ had even texted Betsy around noon that day to confirm that was the plan. So he said to her, going to game and then come get you. We'll call when on way. Should not be too late. And she replied with, okay, great, honey. Now I know what you're thinking, Megan. What games were they playing?
I was actually like, what happened to Betsy?
No. What games were they playing?
What games were they playing, Nikki?
They were gaming. We gotta know.
I know. That's fair. I actually was wondering that when you first initially said that he was going to be playing games.
I found a source that said he was either playing Rollmaster or Talisman. Have you heard of them?
I have not. Talisman sounds familiar, but I don't know what kind of games those are.
They're like tabletop RPGs.
Oh, okay. Like a...
Yeah.
Kind of like
a Dungeons and Dragons.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they're dice rolling RPGs. I Googled them because I didn't recognize it at first. And they seemed very D&D like, and they both sounded like a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so maybe we have those in our future.
Yeah, I mean, we're always open to new games.
Yeah, if we take anything from this case, it's some new RPGs.
That's right.
We're nerds.
That's right, exactly.
So we haven't talked a lot about Russ yet, other than now we know that he might be slightly geeky, likes to play some RPGs.
He sounds awesome.
He does, right?
Yeah.
From all accounts, he was just your regular guy and decent husband.
Mm-hmm.
The description of him said he was a sturdily built, plain-spoken guy. He always wore a fedora hat. He enjoyed fishing and he liked to ride motorcycles. He was extremely close with his mother, and Betsy was his anchor.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
He was currently working an IT job, and he was able to get this job because Betsy had urged him to go back to school. And so he went back and took some IT training, and then he was offered this job, which he seemed to be doing really well at and he really enjoyed.
That's amazing. He would fit very, very well into our group of friends.
Right? Weekly RPG game night with his guy friends.
Exactly.
Even though he planned to pick Betsy up that night after chemo, Betsy then texted Russ saying, Pam Hupp wants to bring me home to bed. She then said that her white blood cell count was low and she really needed rest. So Russ texted back to make sure and said, she is bringing you. And Betsy replied, yes, she offered and I accepted. Didn't get much sleep. Mom snored. Because she had stayed at her mom's apartment.
Oh, okay.
Because it was so close to the chemo place.
I totally understand the mom snoring thing.
Does your mom snore? Are you calling her out right now?
I'm totally calling my mom out. She snores quite a bit. Yes.
So after the chemo, Pam went home. She had a quick supper with her husband, and then she drove back to Betsy's mom apartment because she was going to take her from the apartment to Betsy's home. When she got there, Betsy, Bobby, the mom's friend, and the mom were all playing a game. So Pam patiently waited until they finished up the game, and then Betsy got in the car with Pam, and they drove back to her house. When they pulled into Betsy's driveway, Pam called her husband and put Betsy on the phone. Because remember, it was December 27th, so it was right around Christmas, New Year time.
Right.
The husband didn't answer, so they left a message on his answering machine, and it was Betsy on it, and she kind of sang out in a sing-song, bubbly voice, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to him.
Mm-hmm.
Pam let her husband know that she was just dropping Betsy off now, and then she'd be on her way home soon. Russ still stuck to his normal Tuesday routine. That day he had worked from home until about 5 p.m., and then he drove to a gas station to fill up his car. He usually also had supper with his mom every Tuesday, but he ended up calling her at around 5:22 on this particular Tuesday to tell her he couldn't make it. He had promised Betsy he would pick up dog food, and he also needed to grab some cigarettes, but then he had to make it to gaming for 6, so he just didn't have time.
Mm-hmm.
So he stopped and grabbed those things. He then got to his friend's house around 6 p.m. One of their usual friends couldn't make it, so they didn't have enough players to do their normal RPGs.
Okay.
Instead, they decided to watch movies. So they ended up watching the new Conan the Barbarian and part of The Road. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've never heard of it.
With Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, I think I've heard of it because I used to love Viggo after watching him in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
It's good. It's like post-apocalyptic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love post-apocalyptic movies.
Oh, you should watch this one. It had me a little scared. It's
really?
Yeah, I can't. It's been a couple years since I watched it.
You're scared of a lot of things.
It's because it's post-apocalyptic, and some people, with like the people that are left in the world, some have become like cannibals.
Oh,
so they basically
it's kind
hunt
of a little bit realistic. Something that could potentially happen.
Oh yeah, it's not like sci-fi post-apocalyptic. It's real world apocalyptic.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that would be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, so it's him and his son trying to find safety. They like have some kind of plan of some place to go or something. It's been years since I watched it, but I do remember it's terrifying because there's cannibals hunting other survivors to eat because there's nothing left to eat in the world. I think it was all plants and all animals died, which is how the apocalypse started or something.
Gosh. Well,
I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but
a little terrifying. Yeah, you're not wrong there, I guess.
No.
I have written it down, and it is now on my list of all the other things that you've told me to watch on this podcast.
So while they were watching movies, they also smoked some pot. At around 9 p.m., Russ and two other friends left to head home. Russ stopped at an Arby's for 2 junior cheddar melts.
Yum. Oh my God. I miss Arby's so much.
Do we not have an Arby's here?
We don't here anymore. They took out the one. It was very close to where, it was actually between where you and I live right now. And they took it out a couple of years ago, but it was like across the street from where I used to work. So I used to go there for lunch all the time. But they took it away. And now I think the closest one is about an hour away from here.
Oh, wow. I've never been to an Arby's.
I mean, it's like processed meat. So
I wouldn't like
you probably wouldn't be able to eat it, honestly.
Yeah. All I remember is that Simpsons episode where the kids are on the school bus and they get stranded. They're talking about how hungry they are, and one of them says, "I'm so hungry I could eat at Arby's," and they're all like, "Oh,
oh no."
Yeah, I heard that as a kid, so I never wanted to eat there.
I've heard a lot of shade towards Arby's, but I don't know, I liked it.
So he ate his 2 junior cheddar melts as he drove the 24.6 miles back to Troy, where his home was, which is about 39.5 kilometers for us Canadians. What happens next is according to Russ. So this is his side of the story. When he arrived home, he walked inside the house, put the bag of dog food he bought on the floor, took off his jacket, and walked into his living room. That's when he saw Betsy lying on the floor. His first thought was that she was feeling sick from the chemo treatment and she maybe fainted or, fell down and couldn't get up. But then as he got down on the floor beside her, he noticed that her hair was matted with blood.
Oh, no.
And there was blood pooling under her neck.
Oh, that's not good.
No, definitely not good. He then saw that her wrists were slashed open and the black handle of one of their kitchen knives was still sticking out of her throat.
Oh my gosh. What? Okay, that is a little excessive.
Very.
That is definitely trying to have death as the result.
What would the other result be?
Either through murder or suicide, but it sounds very much like murder in my opinion.
So Russ grabbed a phone and he called 911 right away. On a previous occasion, Betsy had tried to take her own life. So with what he saw and with her terminal diagnosis, Russ thought that was what had happened. When the 911 operator answered the call, he said, "My wife killed herself."
Oh.
When first responders arrived, they came to the conclusion that she was dead for more than an hour earlier than when they arrived. At least an hour. Her body was cold and stiff from rigor. Some of the blood in her body had even started kind of drying and coagulating.
Oh, gosh.
An autopsy revealed this was not just slit wrists. Traffic warning.
It's a blooper.
Oh, trigger warning. I don't even know why I said traffic, because I write TW in all caps, and I don't know why I said traffic.
I've never seen traffic warning listed as TW before.
Grimdark news stories. Yeah. Next, Megan with the weather.
It gonna rain.
What? No, we're in a heat wave. So, trigger warning for graphic description. The knife had been driven so deep in her wrists that it went all the way to the bone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It had sliced into her skull and had been stabbed directly into her left eye. Her throat was cut deep and the carotid artery was sliced open. Whoa, is that how that's spelled? I typed it and I'm looking at it and I was like, the carotid? I was like, I've never heard of the carotid artery. Carotid. Wow, I would have not known to put the emphasis there had I never heard somebody else say that word.
How did you... Oh, it's like, how did you know how to say... Oh, because
I've heard carotid artery before, but I've never seen it spelled, and I somehow typed it. So good for me.
Good for you. I don't know what it looks like, so...
It looks like carrot with an ID at the end.
Oh.
Yeah, so I would have said carotid.
Yeah, so would I. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So obviously, like, the amount of pressure that was put into the knife going into her would not be possible for her to do herself. I can't imagine.
No.
And sticking it in her own eye, like, come on.
Yeah, that would, if you were trying to kill yourself, I don't think you'd go for your eye.
No, I don't think so either.
Although those were gruesome injuries, the majority of her stab wounds were actually hidden by her clothes. She had deep punctures in her liver, spleen, and abdomen, as well as perforated lungs.
Oh, so she was just stabbed all over?
The autopsy revealed she would be stabbed a total of 55 times.
What?
Yeah.
55. Oh my gosh. That's somebody with a vengeance or something on their mind.
It's aggressive.
Yeah, it is very.
Officers began an investigation into what is now definitely a crime scene. The house was a mess and in chaos. There were shopping bags, snowmen, and Santas scattered around Betsy's body, which I'm assuming were decorations because it was around Christmas.
Right.
But the article that I read said snowmen. At first I was like, oh my God, how did they stay intact? And then I saw Santa's next and I was like, oh, it must be decorations.
Decorations, yeah. That makes sense.
Like, oh my God, it'd be a whole other mystery. Like that thing where somebody, do you ever hear those riddles where like somebody gets stabbed and there's just a pile of water?
Yeah.
And it's because they were stabbed with an icicle?
Oh. I've never heard that before.
Oh, well, I ruined it. Oh, man, I could have quizzed you.
You could have, yes.
You, like, ask somebody to solve a murder, and it's basically somebody in a locked room, and it's locked from the inside, and there's no windows and no way out, and all that's in there, they have a stab wound through the heart, and then all that's in there is a pile of water. Oh. And you ask how they were killed, or, so like, what the murder weapon was, and it's an icicle.
And a snowman.
Yeah, so Jack Frost did this murder. Oh. Thank you, everybody. Case closed. We'll catch you next week on Grimdark Diaries, the North Pole edition.
Oh, I guess if it was snowmen, were they wearing top hats?
There was, at the crime scene, they also found a carrot, a top hat, some pieces of coal, a pair of mittens, and a corncob pipe.
That sounds oddly familiar.
Right? No, none of those things were found.
They were on the little snowman decorations, though.
They were. I mean, so I guess they were found, so I'm not lying.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just stretching the truth.
Just a little.
In the search of the house, they found Russ's slippers. Oh, God. Man, I wrote flippers.
Nice flippers.
Yep. No. They found his slippers thrown into a pile of stuff at the back of his closet. There were blood stains on the top of one of the shoes and along the sides of them. Lincoln County Sheriff's Deputy Chris Hollingsworth noted that Russ was visibly upset but had limited tears coming from his eyes. That's a direct quote.
People deal with grief in such different ways. I
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
put any judgment on that.
Yeah, and I feel like you can't judge somebody like that.
No, absolutely not.
Everyone take note. If you're around an accident, make sure you have the right amount of tears. Otherwise.
Otherwise, people will judge you, apparently.
Yeah.
I hate that because even me, like, I've been in situations where I've been told that, close family members have passed away or something like that. But I am in shock for probably a good couple of hours before I start reacting. Because I just don't know how to process the information. So I think I kind of just sit there with my mouth agape for a couple of hours. And then that's when I start to realize what it actually means. And then I show emotion. But, everybody processes grief in a totally different way. So I would put absolutely no judgment on him for that.
No. The deputy said he appeared to be in a state of panic and he was having difficulty talking and breathing when they first arrived. When police were inside the home, Deputy Hollingsworth sat with Russ in the police car and tried to distract him with talk of the neighborhood where they both grew up. They had small talk for a while, even laughed a bit, but then this struck police as suspicious.
Uh-oh.
Because they were successful in doing the exact thing they tried to do, which is distract him. So I find that stupid.
What? That's ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
and he obviously knew what they were doing, trying to distract him so he wasn't so grief-stricken.
Yeah.
Hello.
And it was successful. And then they're like, oh, this is suspicious.
Oh,
our tactic is working.
Frig. Oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous. I don't agree with that either.
You just wait. It's going to be wild and soon.
Oh, no.
Officers also noted it suspicious that when Russ was just left alone to think, like if no one was speaking to him, he would start to get super emotional. As they put it, his emotions would be over the top.
Hello? Okay, seriously? That makes me so angry.
Yeah.
That people prefer to show their emotion when they're alone.
Yes.
They don't have to show their emotion in front of you, especially, if there's pride in the way, then that's going to stop him from showing any kind of emotion in front of anyone.
Also, these officers clearly have never had anxiety, because I'll tell you right now, the second I'm left alone with my thoughts, I also get very emotional.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't be left alone in silence. I always have to have some kind of noise. If I sit there and I overthink and I think about everything, and then I'll think about that one embarrassing thing I did in like grade 5.
No.
Yeah, welcome to anxiety. It's awful.
Seriously.
Yeah, so I would do the same thing.
I understand that the police are like, 9 times out of 10, the murderer is the significant other. So they always go to that person and automatically find them suspicious to begin with. But
yeah,
I mean, do your job and find the evidence and then make
you
your
just
judgments.
wait.
Oh, you're making me angry already.
You're going to be filled with rage.
No.
One detective even questioned why he didn't embrace his wife's body when he found it. Skip ahead if you don't want to hear something kind of graphic and gross.
Right.
When he found her, she was covered in blood, 55 stab wounds. The knife was sticking out of her throat, and her tongue was actually hanging out of her mouth. I'm not saying that means he shouldn't have picked her up, but I can see why he wouldn't have picked her up.
He sounds like a very smart individual. He plays awesome games.
Right.
So I think that he would have known that he should not disturb the crime scene.
Yeah.
When you see something like that and there's going to be blood everywhere and you're going to, what's the word? Like destroy evidence.
Contaminate.
Basically. Contaminate is, thank you. That's what I was looking for. Contaminate and destroy evidence. Like, I feel like he's smart enough to know that you should not do that. Call 911 and let them analyze the crime scene. Although he also did say that she killed herself. So I don't know if he initially thought that there was a crime scene. So that part is kind of like, I don't really know what he was thinking.
Yeah.
A lot of blood, though. Maybe you just don't want
Yeah.
the blood on you. That could be, too.
Yeah, some people can't deal with a lot of blood.
Right.
They took Russ to the station, and a camera recorded him by himself in the interview room. He was recorded whispering, "No, Betsy," and just sobbing and praying. During 10 hours of interrogation, he maintained his composure and his original story, repeating again and again, "I wasn't there, I didn't kill her." The next day, he was taken to the Lake St. Louis police station to take a polygraph. So at this point, he's been awake for 32 hours. He failed the polygraph.
What?
He was told he failed the polygraph. So it was not looking good for Russ. But even after being told he failed the test, he still maintained that he walked in and he found her like that. And his story never once changed. Like, he didn't ever change any detail about his story.
I feel like you have to have like the perfect array of scenarios for a polygraph to work properly.
Yeah, there's a
Otherwise, I
reason
think
it's not admissible in court.
Exactly. Like, you have to be calm. Like, you're not allowed to do exaggerated breathing. Like, I feel like if you haven't slept for 32 hours, there's going to be something wrong with you as a physical body where you're not going to be able to give
And also,
proper...
you just found your wife's dead body.
Right. Exactly. Like, I feel like there's just too many scenarios right there that would not be admissible, which, again, that's why it's not admissible in court.
Yeah. So police were busy doing their investigation. They reached out to Pam, since she was the last one to technically see Betsy alive after driving her home from chemo. Pam told detectives that Betsy very much wanted to move to Lake St. Louis so she could be closer to chemo and her friends and family. She had told Pam of her plan to move into her mom's old house there. She was going to run the plan by Russ that very night, and she had told Pam that she thought he'd be furious about it. Pam said she felt guilty leaving her friend to tell Russ alone, and like, she felt like she maybe should have stayed to kind of back Betsy up, because she said Betsy talked about how Russ had a really bad temper.
Is that corroborated with like all of his friends and other members of society that knew him?
It sure isn't, but
okay,
they never bothered to corroborate it, so...
Oh, what?
You're
Hello?
Find
that was like
a
literally
real
the
failing of the justice system.
They really wanted to pin this on him.
Oh,
that was the first thing I thought of to
you
do. Come on.
Just wait.
I am not a cop, and I feel like that would have been the correct action.
Right? That's what you do, is you corroborate stories.
Exactly.
Pam went on to tell them how creepy Betsy's house had looked that night when she dropped her off. It was dark, but with the doors unlocked, and she talked about how she thought Russ was home early because there was a silver Nissan Maxima in the driveway, which I don't even think is the car he drives. She also made a note to say that she found it really odd that Betsy didn't have her keys. She said Russ had told Betsy not to bring her purse to chemo, which was strange because she said Betsy lived out of her purse.
Yeah, but he was going to pick her up, so she wouldn't have needed to have her keys.
Right, and it turned out she forgot her purse. That's what her mom said.
Right.
Or that's what Russ said. Somebody said.
Right.
First, Pam said she didn't go inside the house. She said she just dropped her off. Then she said she just went in, turned on the hall light for Betsy. Then her story changed, and she said she went all the way to the back bedroom because Betsy wanted to show her a jewelry cabinet that Russ had given her for Christmas.
What?
Pam said when she left, Betsy was snug on the couch with a blanket wrapped around her. She also told police that she called Betsy to let her know when she was home. Pam said Betsy didn't answer when she called. And so when Pam arrived home, she texted Betsy and got no reply. Then she called Betsy's mom and said she was worried that Betsy was mad at her for not staying with her. Betsy's mother also then tried to call Betsy and got no answer. Pam then just went to bed after that and didn't reach out anymore. Detectives took down her whole story and all of the flavor text that she had added about Russ and his temper. The next day, detectives decided to go back to Pam's house to confirm her story with her husband to make sure her timelines kind of added up. Pam was present when they talked to her husband, and she interjected a lot. And then she decided to spill more tea on Russ and their marriage. She told police that Betsy had been afraid of Russ, that he was a huge drinker, and Betsy kept talking about how much money he'd get when she died. Pam then said Betsy told her she'd written an email to Pam describing how scared she was of Russ, how he'd put a pillow over her face, and said that's how it felt to die.
Did she give them the email? And was it written the day before?
Well, she said that Betsy told her about an email, but Pam said she never received the email.
Oh my.
And they tried to print out the email, but they couldn't connect Pam's old printer to Betsy's laptop.
That sounds like a load of horse poo-poo.
Right.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. This testimony from Pam and all of the evidence, it didn't look great for Russ. I read one source that also said the fact that he played role-playing games in a very Grimdark type setting.
That was a nice play to our
yeah.
podcast.
Well, it was the perfect descriptor of what it was.
That's why we chose it.
Yeah. So that made him more suspicious because he played role-playing games.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
How do we feel about that, Megan? About people
like
being
that.
guilty for stuff like that?
No, absolutely not. This is not okay. I do not.
I think
agree
we're
with
gonna
it
go
at
to
all.
jail because I killed 4 trolls on Friday.
Yeah, you did. I heard about it anyway. I wasn't there.
Yeah, they were 9 feet tall.
I was like rooting for you though, as you were
Thanks.
telling me the story. Kind of wish I'd been there.
Yeah, I did not, however, affect a bone golem that I shot magic missiles at, and they just pew-pewed off of his outie boner layers.
Oh man.
Yep, so then I retreated.
Yeah, that's fair. I would.
I'm just a
understand
baby.
that.
I'm a baby mage right now.
Man, I don't know. I think that's a completely ridiculous. That's just like blaming, shooter games for the the shootings that happen
Yeah.
anywhere in the world.
It makes
really.
no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And it's not the games, it's the people and how messed up they are already.
Oh, yeah. So on January 4th, Russell Faria was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. Megan, do you think Russ is guilty?
No, absolutely not. I'm on Team Russ. I don't believe for a second that he did that. Just because of everything that you've kind of said up to this point has been very clear and concise, and he has never changed his story.
Nope.
Whereas Pam's story has changed already within
Sure has.
the first interview.
In the same interview, it changed.
Yeah, in the same interview it changed. Like, I don't know. That's a big red flag for me.
Yeah. Changed 3 times in the first interview.
Right? I'd be like, okay, get it straight, lady. Like, you're obviously having trouble telling us the truth because it keeps changing. So, yeah, I would definitely be looking at Pam.
Well, we're going to go over some of the stuff that came out in court. The trial started on November 18th, 2013. So starting out, Russ had 4 people for his alibi at being at his friend's place.
Yeah.
And they all confirmed that he didn't leave until 9 p.m. So if he had left there at 9 p.m., sped like full speed all the way with 0 stops.
Yeah, because it was over 30 kilometers, you said.
39 and a half, so pretty much 40 kilometers.
That's quite the distance. It would take him almost an hour to get home.
Well, the police are saying that if he sped there with 0 stops, he would make it there at 9:23 p.m.
What? What kind of speed limits do they got over
I
there?
have no idea. Maybe it's all highway. I don't know.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, that's true.
So that would give him exactly 9 minutes to stab his wife 55 times, clean himself up, and call 911.
Do we know what time the call came into 911?
Yeah, it was 9 minutes after that.
Okay, so obviously that was not...
Yeah, exactly. So
that is not possible. Come on.
And also, there was no blood found on Russ or on his clothes.
What about food? Did he have the garbage from Arby's?
You just wait. Oh, Arby's. Detective Megan, you're doing so good with this case.
Thank you.
You have learned
I'm on the ball so today.
You're on this grimdark detective journey, and I love it for you.
I'm so excited. I want to do well. I want to solve every case.
You're doing very well. So remember, because he didn't embrace, like he didn't pick up his wife, he just leaned down by her. Right. So I believe he had like maybe a little bit of blood on his hands, which he fully admitted to. I leaned down and I went to touch her.
Probably tried to find a pulse, maybe.
Yeah. Well, once he saw the knife sticking out of her neck, I think.
Well, yeah.
So either way,
true.
There was no blood on his body or on his clothes, just on those slippers of his that were in the back of his closet. He was even still wearing the clothes that he was captured on security footage wearing earlier that evening when he stopped for gas and did all his errands.
Mm-hmm.
So exact same outfit, and there was no blood on them.
There would have been spray for sure if he had
55
done the
stab
55 stab wounds, there would have been spray for sure.
What was also weird about the blood on the slippers is that it wasn't spatter. Like it wasn't a spatter mark like he was wearing them while committing the murder. And it wasn't on the bottom like he had murdered her and then walked around in them afterwards. Right. It was a kind of like some blobs and like scuffs of blood.
Oh, like it was wiped on there?
Right.
Okay, yeah, sure.
We'll put a picture. There's a picture of them with the blood on them. I'll put them on the Instagram. Police also found the Arby's receipt from that night with a timestamp of 9:09 p.m.
Right? See? He obviously went to Arby's.
Right. So proving that he did stop before going home, so which throws out that whole timeline.
Exactly.
Russ's attorney, Joel Schwartz, who I think is amazing. He seems like a superstar attorney.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. He was really, really, really smart.
Doing his due diligence.
Yeah. He could be a grimdark detective as well.
I love it. Yes. Fit right in.
Yeah, we'll get him one of those detective lab coats you and I talked about.
Oh, yes. Our pod lab, yeah.
Yeah, pod lab coats,
Love
but
it.
also detective coats.
That's right. Yeah.
They're our do everything coat.
Detectives, yes.
Yeah, guys, we want merch and we want to make little house coats that look like little lab coats.
Yes.
Say grimdark.
I love it.
So his attorney, we'll call him Schwartz, he had asked for raw data from the polygraph that they did on Russ. And he never received the data. The only thing he could get was a consent form saying that Russ agreed to it and a typed summary indicating that there were significant, consistent psychological responses of deception.
From Russ?
No, just the polygraph tech, like the police.
Right.
Typed him a piece of paper that said that and handed it to him.
What?
But they wouldn't give him the actual results.
Okay, who is Pam sleeping with at the police office? I want to know who she's sleeping with.
Russ offered to take a second polygraph where he wasn't awake for 32 hours and just found his wife deceased.
Right.
So that they could actually look at the data. And his 4 alibi witnesses also all agreed that they would take a polygraph. But the Lincoln County prosecutor declined.
Why? What is their reasoning for declining that?
Because then it would prove that they didn't, that they were all telling the truth.
Right. What, like, seriously, who is Pam sleeping with?
So the prosecutor tried to make Russ look suspicious because he said he drove to a very specific gas station to get his gas, which is not the one nearest to his home. And he drove to a specific store closer to like his friend's house. Like he kind of went out of his way a little bit. He told the jury that that was suspicious because they said Russ was specifically driving to these places to be put on security footage so he would have alibis. But then his attorney pointed out that those were the places that he always buys those two things. Like they can go back and look, and those are the places. He always buys his cigarettes from that gas station because they are 60 cents cheaper than at any other gas station.
I totally understand that.
Absolutely.
Well, when I used to be a smoker.
Very frugal.
Yeah, why not? Like, why wouldn't you go where it's cheaper?
Right. And the place where he went to get the dog food, they actually have a specific points card. So they earn some kind of a loyalty points.
All right, that's totally believable.
Absolutely. I also want to point out, so at this time, the only person that they had as a suspect was Russ. They didn't look into anybody else.
Not the last person who saw her alive, which was Pam.
Are you
kidding me?
Wrote that next. I was like, a good detective would be looking at the last person to see the victim alive. Right.
That blows my mind. This is a botched investigation.
Right. So I want to look at the evidence and, you know, Betsy's BFF Pam, because evidence is looking a little suspect. So that's pretty much all they had on Russ. Like what I just said, that was the whole prosecution argument. The lack thereof, because that timeline made no sense.
And he obviously wouldn't get, like, there's no way that they would actually find him guilty because it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. Come on, don't.
We're going to continue with the court case.
Okay. See the look on your face and I'm not happy.
Also the prosecutor said that all four of his alibi witnesses were lying, even though they all swore it.
Just because
and even though they offered to do a polygraph
lying doesn't mean they're lying.
Oh, that's not how that works?
Oh, no, it really isn't.
Oh my God, I've been doing this wrong my whole life.
Wow, you're just going to take the guy's word at face value? My gosh, just because he's a prosecutor doesn't mean he knows what he's doing.
Oh. This must be the first case then.
Yeah, that's right.
No.
Ever.
So, I know this is going to make you scream.
God. Here we go.
So remember, we're going to look at Pam now. But she's not on trial here. She was never considered a suspect.
Right.
The Friday before Betsy's murder, so remember she was murdered on a Tuesday.
Yes.
The Friday before, her insurance policies all had the beneficiary changed on them. I will give you one guess who the person was changed to.
I freaking knew it. I was going to say that. It's got to be, oh my God, how did Pam get her name on the beneficiary list? All those appointments that she overrode her dad's visit for all of his advice he was going to give her.
Yep. So apparently she, became best friends with Betsy, and she reassured her that, she would take the money, put it in a trust for the girls and Russ. So she convinced Betsy that it made more sense to put Pam as the beneficiary. What she told her is that she would put it in a trust. That was the agreement. So State Farm was the insurance agency on the policy, and they contacted the police. They contacted Detective Sergeant Ryan McCarrick, and he was the one leading the investigation. They contacted him because they knew that this was, a pending murder case, and
Super suspicious.
You can't pay out an insurance policy to somebody that's under suspicion of murder, or I don't know at what point you can't pay it out, if they're on trial or under arrest or what it is, or
if there's an open investigation.
Right.
Potentially.
Detective Sergeant McCarrick? I'll go with McCarrick.
Yeah.
He assured State Farm that Pam Hupp was not a suspect, so they should have no concern about paying out her life insurance proceeds.
What?
I'm not kidding you.
Are you serious?
This is the mid-2000s. This isn't like 1950. We're in the mid-2000s right now.
He didn't even remotely consider the fact that she was the beneficiary. She was the last person to see Betsy alive. She was trying to throw shade at the husband just to make him more suspicious. Like, hello.
Right?
What the frig?
Yeah.
This detective.
This whole team of detectives.
Right? I'm honestly shocked. They're literally trained to be able to see this stuff.
Oh, you just wait. It gets worse.
Oh, no,
It is going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
My blood is boiling already.
This is going to be a long episode, I can tell.
Okay.
So, and Pam had told police, she said that Betsy didn't trust Russ. So she told them that she put the money in a trust for the girls. Remember, originally, she said after dropping Betsy off, she called her to let her know she was home. Well, that story kind of changed in court when she was under oath.
Oh.
And it only changed because cell phone records show her phone pinging off a tower still in Betsy's neighborhood in Troy.
Oh my gosh.
Which is not where Pam lived.
She tried to call to say that she was home just for the alibi?
Well, so she told police that she called to let her know that she's home, but then in court, they were like, no, well, your phone, at the time you said you called, your phone pinged off in the neighborhood, so you weren't home.
Thank God they actually checked that, because I would believe you if you had told me they did not check where it was pinging from.
I mean, it doesn't really matter that they checked, because then she changed her story, and she said that she had pulled over while still near Betsy's house to make the call, and she didn't mean to say that she told her she was home. What she meant to say to police was that she called to tell her she was home free, as in she reached a point in the drive where she knew her way home.
What the Are you serious?
Yep.
This is ridiculous. Like, this actually is the most ridiculous story I've ever heard.
Yeah. Her friend that she's been driving home for months, she had to, pull over in the neighborhood to let her know she knew her way to the neighborhood. She was good
for months.
Yes.
She has been doing this for her.
Yes. But that's fine because police and prosecutors just were like, okay, great. Thanks for clearing that up.
Sure. Who was Pam sleeping with?
Yeah. So there's also Pam's changing story of first saying she dropped her off, then saying she walked her to the door, then the hallway, and then to her back bedroom. Very conveniently, her story kept updating to include places where DNA evidence could have been found. So then it would make sense if they found Pam's DNA in the bedroom, which happens to also be the bedroom where the slippers were found.
Yes, exactly.
But that wouldn't matter because police never compared Pam's DNA to any found in the home.
Why not?
That's a great question.
Not? I want to know why. They didn't even look at Pam.
No, they also never bothered to confirm what clothes she was wearing that night with anyone and to check them for evidence. Because remember, like, Bobby and Betsy's mom saw her pick her up.
That's right.
So they would know what clothes she was wearing, but police never asked. So that's fine. Russ's attorney, Schwartz, discovered that police asked Pam to take a polygraph, and she agreed. But then she hired a lawyer who delayed it. And then when they couldn't delay it any longer, she told police she had head injuries, so she couldn't take the polygraph. They asked for a medical note proving that she did in fact have head injuries that would prevent her from taking it. The request she submitted to the doctor said, quote, "Dear Dr. Fisher, could you please write Detective Kaiser a letter stating that I was not able to do a polygraph due to medical reasons. Don't need any more detail than that."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the doctor did it. He wrote her a note.
So she obviously did have head injuries then, I'm going to assume. Unless she was also sleeping with the doctor. I don't know. I don't know.
In court, Schwartz asked this doctor later if there's any condition that she has that would prevent her from taking a polygraph. And the doctor said, nope, there's nothing medically preventing her from taking one.
Really?
Yeah. When asked in court about this note, she wrote to the doctor. Pam denied it. When Detective McCarrick was on the stand, Schwartz asked him whether he believed Pam Hupp and what she was telling him. And his response was, quote, "Based on training and experience of dealing with hundreds of interviews with suspects and with witnesses and with victims, I did not see any signs of deception that would lead me to believe she was indicating anything that was untrue to me.
I had so many red flags. Like,
right?
How do you not see those?
Right?
Wow.
Schwartz then followed that up with saying, did she ever disclose to you that she's been fired from not 1 but 2 life insurance jobs for forging signatures?
What?
The detective said, no, she hadn't.
Scandalous. Why wouldn't they have called... Okay, they obviously didn't suspect her, so they might not have thought to do this, but why wouldn't they contact the life insurance company that Betsy had a life insurance policy through, considering they knew about it because the insurance company called them?
Yeah.
And they didn't look into it. But why wouldn't they have been like, what did she do with the money? I'm curious.
Well, the insurance agency doesn't know. They just write you a check.
No, not them. Pam. Like, why wouldn't they look into where the money went? They can.
She told them that she made a trust.
Yeah, but that's not enough for me. I'm sorry. Just because you say one thing doesn't mean it's true. I'm sorry.
Well, they would need to get warrants to be able to see her financial information. And
I suppose.
They didn't even check what clothes she was wearing. So
yeah, that's fair. That's very frustrating.
Okay, I'm going to do some quotes from Schwartz and Pam on the stand. So Schwartz asked if she had a head injury. Pam said yes. Schwartz said, what's your head injury? And she said, I have no idea.
I'm sorry,
what?
She doesn't know.
Schwartz said, how do you know you have memory issues? And she said, well, because you're asking me questions and I don't remember the answer.
What? I don't remember the answer?
Yeah. Pam then said she didn't have health insurance and couldn't afford it. She said she didn't have life insurance either. And then she's quoted saying, I don't believe in it for myself. But her husband did have it. She said that her husband had it. And then she was quoted saying, and amazingly, he's still alive because it is a lot.
What?
And Schwartz said, I'm sorry. And then she said, I said, amazingly, he's still alive because it's a lot. And I sold it to him, so. And Schwartz said, what do you mean by that? Pam says, I mean, I guess if I wanted a lot of money, I could kill him instead of her.
Oh my gosh. Like, wholly incriminating.
Right. She said, I could kill him instead of her. And Schwartz said, instead of who? Pam says, Betsy.
Okay, let's just arrest her right now for incriminating herself for the murder of Betsy.
Right. He also asked her again on the stand if she'd be willing to take a polygraph, and she said no.
Because of those head injuries, she can't remember how she got.
Right. So Schwartz wasn't allowed to bring up Pam as a possible suspect or bring up any motives. And the fact that she was the new beneficiary of Betsy's life insurance, he wasn't allowed to say that at all in court in front of the jury. So the jury didn't get to know that.
So what happened?
So the prosecutor had successfully argued that Pam had no direct connection to the case. So she wasn't allowed to be suggested as a suspect in court. And he couldn't ask her anything that would incriminate her.
What?
When he even slightly tried, the prosecution called objections and won. In a last-ditch effort, because Schwartz 100% from the beginning was like, oh, it's Pam.
Right.
100% it's Pam.
Obviously a very smart man.
Yeah, and he's trying to, he knows that Russ didn't do it. He knows that Pam did it, in his opinion. So
everyone with the right mind knows that Pam did it.
Right. So he's doing everything he can to try and let other people see that, but he just wasn't allowed. He got blocked from everything he tried.
Oh my gosh.
So in a last-ditch effort, he did what's called an offer of proof. So he was questioning Pam out of the jury's hearing. So with the jury out of the court, he questioned her about the life insurance money. Because she got the payout almost a year before.
Okay.
And she'd only put money in a trust 5 days before she was in court. And it was only $100,000. And so he said, where's the other $50,000? The policy was for $150,000.
Right.
And she told him, My other friend died of breast cancer in August, and she has a 12-year-old daughter that I'm trying to help.
Okay, where's the proof of that?
Well, there is none because it was a lie. She didn't help any 12-year-old girl.
And also that's not the money for...
No!
That money was not meant for someone else's kid. I'm sorry.
No.
As sad as that would be if that were true.
Absolutely.
It's not for that child. It's for
Betsy's 2 children.
Yeah. Yes.
Betsy paid those premiums so that her kids could have that.
Right.
But, again, Schwartz wasn't allowed to have this said when the jury was there. So the jury didn't hear this.
What a vile woman. I'm sorry. That is...
Right?
I'm disgusted.
So in the summary of the case and closing arguments and stuff, the prosecution made the motive greed, saying Russ didn't know that the beneficiary had been changed to BAM, which is true. He didn't know. They pointed out that he had student loans. So I hope no one near me gets murdered because I have student loans along with most people in their 20s and 30s.
Right? Seriously. Yeah. Wow.
They also went with what Pam had said, making him out to be a really angry guy with a short temper. Their 2 daughters, who were actually Russ's stepdaughters, so they were Betsy's biological but Russ's stepdaughters.
Okay.
Were now convinced that Russ had killed their mom, so they testified that Russ and Betsy fought a lot, and they were against him in court. The prosecution also said that whoever killed Betsy had showered, cleaned up, and let the dog out afterward, and Russ was the only one who'd know where the towels were and be able to control his dog, even though lab tests showed no blood, fresh or cleaned up, in the drains or on like the towel drawer where they keep their towels. There was no blood of any kind there.
What about someone else who's been in the house before and happens to know where things are and knows the dog well?
Yeah. And also there was no evidence that somebody cleaned up.
Why say that?
Because they need to make a motive. And
yeah, but it's not proven with... Oh my God. Anyway,
yeah.
Continue.
There's also some circumstantial evidence that Betsy had actually died before 7:21 p.m. So her daughter, one of her daughters, Leah, was going to her cell phone provider to upgrade her phone plan. And because she was a teenager, it was in Betsy's name. Mm-hmm. And Betsy had promised her that she would authorize the charges over the phone. So Leah called her from the store at 7:21, 7:26, and 7:30, and Betsy didn't answer, which would be very unlike her, especially knowing that Leah was going to be calling then.
Well, so where was she at that time? Wasn't she at her mother's, or was she?
She was at home. Home, yeah. Pam had already taken her home at that point.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Well, if that's the case, then Russ wasn't anywhere near home at that point.
No, absolutely not. He just arrived at his friend's place at 6.
Exactly.
Right.
But they're all lying, apparently.
Yeah, they're all lying.
Jeez.
In her closing arguments, the prosecution tells the jury her final theory on the whole thing. You're going to be really mad, Megan.
Oh my God. I'm bracing myself.
Yes. She said that Russ decided this would be the ultimate game of role play.
Oh my God. What?
This could even be a bonus action.
Oh my. No, it's way too long for a bonus action.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe not for your bonus action episode.
Right. So she said, the prosecution said months before, maybe years before, he had the idea and he brought it to his friends about, doing this ultimate real life role play. And then when Betsy texted that Pam was taking her home, Russ decided that this was the night.
Absolutely not.
So then he makes all these stops so he can establish an alibi. And then, according to the prosecution, they said he left his phone with his friends and co-conspirators because his cell phone was pinging off his friend's house. So confirmed he was at his friend's house.
Sure, okay.
So the prosecution is saying he left his phone there, drove back to their home in Troy. Betsy was on the couch covered in a blanket. And remember, there was no blood on Russ's clothes, and confirmed on security footage, those were his clothes. So then she said that he got naked, killed her, showered.
Even though there's no blood in the drains or anywhere in the bathroom.
Yep. Put his dog outside, cleaned up a little bit while calling 911.
From his cell phone that he left with his friends?
Yeah. Oh, well, part of it is that his friends delivered the phone and the Arby's with a receipt.
And did they leave their cell phones back at their house?
I don't know. I feel like they must.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't believe this for a second.
Yeah, and then said that he realized he had blood on his slippers because apparently he murdered her naked in slippers and then threw them in the closet.
Mental image is ridiculous and hilarious.
The whole thing is ridiculous.
Obviously, this is not true.
Yeah.
That sounds like it was pulled right out of their butts.
I would be furious if I was one of his friends.
Yes.
Because then you just got accused of being an accessory to murder.
Accessory to murder, and that you are that type of person just because you play tabletop role-playing games.
Right.
Absolutely disgusting that you're going to pinpoint that on that type of person because that's what you think.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I don't know what people, like non-Dungeons and Dragons or non-RPG people, I don't know what they think we do when we play roleplay games. They need to look at some of those memes that are like, what my friends think I do, what my family needs to do.
Yes, what I actually do.
Yeah. Like, I feel like people think it's really dark or something, but usually it's funny. We play it because it's funny.
Yes, we're always in hysterics laughing about the things that we do because it's ridiculous. Like some of the stuff that we do. The storyline is great. And if you like any storyline, like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbits, or, I go to that obviously because they're my favorite movies. But if you enjoyed those type of movies, it's just that in game form. Yeah. And you get to do fun and ridiculous things and make it fun. Like I can't believe that anybody would blame a murder on that particular type of person who liked to play role-playing games.
Right.
That's ridiculous. And they do not understand it, obviously, at all.
Right. And if you really thought that was what happened, then you should be putting charges against those 4 people. But they have literally zero evidence, so they can't.
Exactly. Ugh, that's disgusting. That makes me sick.
You ready for the cherry on top?
Oh no, I thought that was it.
This is just so, the final words from the prosecutor were, quote, "There isn't any evidence that points anywhere else," end quote.
What does that mean?
They're saying there's no evidence that points at anybody else.
Well, not that's admissible in court, apparently.
Right. That's the thing. They got everything else thrown out.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so frustrating.
Right. So the jury deliberated for 4.5 hours. They returned a verdict of guilty.
No.
He was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
Shut up. Are you
And that's
serious?
the end of the story. Good night. No. Enjoy the case. We'll
no,
catch you
you're
next
not.
week.
No, absolutely not. You cannot finish the story like that. I refuse to allow you to. Make up something happy.
Well, conveniently, I was just joking. There's still more. So how are you feeling right now about the case, Megan?
I'm angry. I'm very angry. This is actually ridiculous. Right? This whole case from start to finish was ridiculous and poorly handled. Very botched. I'm very unhappy.
Right. I'm going to do a quick aside about Pam, and then we're going to see what happens after Russ was convicted. So, I feel like Pam, this poor woman, must have very bad luck because, her elderly mom died around this time. With some very odd circumstances. Isn't that weird?
Oh, she must have had a very large life insurance policy put on her.
Right.
And Pam was the beneficiary, my guess.
That's funny how she had a huge life insurance policy.
Interesting, for sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So her mom lived in an assisted living apartment, and Pam had picked her up and then brought her back. Then she walked her up to her apartment, and staff saw her walk her up, and she was up there for a little bit. And then when Pam was leaving, she told the staff not to expect her mom to come down for supper or breakfast the following morning. So just leave her. Don't check on her. But if she doesn't show up for lunch the next day, then they should call the family. Because, that's not suspicious.
No. What? Really?
Yes.
Did
so
the
sure
police
enough,
not look into this at all?
No.
Like, oh my God.
No.
My brain is about to explode. So you need to hurry up and finish the story.
So sure enough, her mom didn't show up for lunch the next day. So then staff went upstairs to check on her. That's when they found out that she had somehow fallen from the balcony of her 3rd floor apartment. So she had a metal railing on her balcony.
Right.
2 of the upright metal railing poles had broken and were lying on the ground next to her body. 4 more of them had been bent outward, creating an almost 3 feet kind of gap, but the guardrail at the top was still intact.
I feel like that's a difficult thing to do if you're just like tripping and falling.
And you're elderly.
Yes. To have that kind of force behind it.
Yeah. She also had 8 times the typical dose of Ambien in her system.
Oh my God. Especially drugged.
Yes.
You can't do any kind of like forceful action with that much. 8 times? That's so sad.
Right. Dateline NBC later asked a structural engineer to examine the posts on the railing, and the engineer said it would take a lawnmower or a vehicle to cause that much bending.
What?
On July 21st, 2014. So that's the end of that story, by the way.
Oh, that left me very unsatisfied.
Yeah, so it was marked as accidental death, and her and her siblings got the insurance payout.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's just an aside. Whether it happened or not.
Just bringing it up for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Just bring that up.
It has
just
nothing
a little
to do with the story
color
at
for
all.
the story.
Yeah.
Yep. So on July 21st, 2014, Pam gave a deposition for a civil trial because Betsy's daughters were suing her for their insurance money that they never received.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So in this deposition, the lawyer said, "Did she mention to you that she wanted the money to be used for her daughters?" And Pam said, "Absolutely not."
What?
Yeah.
Isn't that what they went to trial for? Like, not for, but isn't that... Oh, I guess they couldn't bring
They weren't
it up.
allowed to talk about the insurance in trial.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
But she told police.
So...
When police were like, "Oh, she changed you to the beneficiary," she was like, "Yeah, because she didn't trust Russ and the girls, so I'm going to put it in a trust for the girls." And then Schwartz did check, and that was 5 days before the trial.
Right.
She put $100,000 in a trust.
Right. For the girls.
The attorney at the trial ended up calling Schwartz to tell him that days after Russ's trial, Pam drained the trust that she had set up.
Not shocked to hear that at all.
Right. So when you make a trust, you can make revocable or irrevocable beneficiaries to it. So it's just exactly what it means if it's irrevocable.
Oh my God.
She can't change it, but then she made it revocable, so then she just drained it.
So vile.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. This person. Is she human?
Yes. Right away, Schwartz got to work drafting a Mooney motion. So he'd already filed an appeal for Russ, but this motion told the court that there was fresh evidence for a judge to consider, evidence that could kind of negate a guilty verdict. So it's different from an appeal.
Okay.
A Mooney motion had been granted only 3 times in Missouri's history.
Like recorded history. That's crazy. Wow.
This would make the 4th time.
I've never even heard of that before.
I haven't either. In June 2015, it was decided that Russ would get a new trial. It took place on November 2nd, 2015. And at this trial, he opted for just a judge and no jury. Once Schwartz presented all the evidence, or rather, lack of evidence, Russ was acquitted.
Wait. Oh, lack of evidence. Okay,
lack
that's
of evidence.
Good,
yeah, there's
good,
literally no evidence pointing at Russ.
No, exactly. So And I guess he didn't want to bring up the whole Pam thing.
He can't.
But why? Because it's a new trial.
You can't. You still have to follow the rules.
What rules? I don't understand. It's
Because,
a new trial. Doesn't all
right.
the other rules from the first trial get thrown out the window and you can make it whatever you want?
Well, this is a new trial, but this was just to get Russ off.
Oh. Okay, so
yes.
he
was focusing
there's
on
absolutely no evidence that points to Russ. Like,
right.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, there's no way you can charge him for this or
right.
convict him of this.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm no attorney, but I wouldn't want to risk trying to throw shade on somebody else.
Yeah.
I would just focus on
fair enough. Yeah.
the fact that there's literally nothing to prove it was Russ.
Yeah. That's fair.
So after he was acquitted, they still wouldn't consider another suspect. They were sure it was Russ. So then they just dropped it. Like the prosecution.
Oh, that is great detective work right there.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
But that's okay because stuff gets wilder.
I don't know how.
So on August 16th, 2016, Pam Hupp shot and killed a man named Louis Gumpenberger. The story Pam told police was that this man tried to assault her and was demanding Russ's money. He said he was going to kill her and came at her, so she grabbed the gun she had and emptied it into him.
And demanded Russ's money?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm. We're going to get to that. Yep. So who was this guy that attacked her? Due to a car crash in 2005, it caused him severe head injuries. He was left with extreme mental deficits. He was described as almost childlike, and he was unable to process complex thoughts.
Oh, no.
He was 33 years old at the time, and he had no use of his left hand. He only ever left his mother's house alone for walks around the neighborhood, and then other than that, he would be with his mom.
Right.
Less than 45 minutes before the 911 call, strangely enough, Pam's cell phone had pinged in his mom's neighborhood where he lived.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Police also found a handwritten note in Gumpenberger's pocket that told him to kill Pam in order to get the rest of his $10,000, but to first take her to the bank, get Russ's money, and leave it in the woodpile at the Faria's house. It said, take Hupp back to house, get rid of her, make it look like Russ's wife, make sure knife sticking out of neck. So then they also found $900 in cash in his pocket. But this is where things go bad for Pam. The serial number on 4 of the bills in Gumpenberger's pocket lined up with the serial number on bills found in Pam's possession. So he had a bunch of $100 bills and she had $100 bills, and the serial numbers were all in order.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that only happens if you go to the bank and take out money, or if they just happen to be in front and behind each other in line and took out $100 bills.
Right.
Then they asked Russ about the woodpile in the note. So he checked the neighbor's security camera, and sure enough, there is a pile of wood at the front of his yard. And on the security footage, it showed Pam driving by the house before the shooting, driving up and down the street.
Oh, okay. Well, she's obviously in the area.
Right. And she would know he had a woodpile that just got put there.
Exactly.
What police found out actually happened was that Pam had lured Gumpenberger to her house by saying that she was a Dateline producer and offered to pay him to reenact a 911 scenario for the show. Then once she got him there, she shot him, put the note and money in his pocket. You might be asking why someone would do something so wild. Well, with Russ out of jail now and worried that the police might start looking at her for Betsy's murder, she wanted to throw suspicion back on Russ by setting up this whole scenario. After she was arrested for the shooting, she asked to go to the washroom and somehow got herself a pen, and she stabbed herself in the neck and wrists.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so in her mugshot, she has these big bandages on her neck. I'll post that on the Instagram too.
Okay.
In June 2019, Pam entered an Alford guilty plea to the murder of Louis Gumpenberger.
A what?
An Alford plea?
I don't know.
So that's basically, it's when you accept the charges without admitting guilt.
Oh, okay.
So you're charged with it and you will accept a guilty plea, but you're not saying that you did it.
Okay.
So you're maintaining your innocence, but agreeing to the charges.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. She was sentenced to life without parole in August 2019 for that murder.
Good.
Then on July 12th, 2021.
Oh, very recently.
Pam was finally charged with first-degree murder of Betsy.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
So they finally looked into her.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then there was also a statement out there that said, it was a quote, and it said, the state would be investigating potential prosecutorial misconduct in the original Faria murder investigation.
Nice.
Describing the initial investigation into the murder as mismanaged from the beginning.
Thank God.
Yes, and they also agreed that there was confirmation bias against Russ from the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. They completely treated him unfairly through the whole thing. There was no evidence whatsoever pointing to him, and they made it look like it was all pointing to him.
Oh, yeah. In March 2020, Russ sued over his wrongful conviction, and he won a settlement worth over $2 million.
Whoa! Okay, and they were worried about him having $150,000.
Right.
Good for him.
I hope those daughters changed their tune because they thought he was guilty too.
Right? Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but if they're young and impressionable, then they probably were kind of...
Yeah, they were teenagers.
Teenagers, exactly. And they were probably taking some of the evidence at face value, and they don't know, it probably didn't understand how it all worked or what it all meant. So hopefully they did change their tune. Not after he won $2 million, but before that.
Yeah, I hope so. So Pam hasn't went to trial yet because she was just charged in July. But they did say that they were going to be seeking the death penalty for her. So we can probably give you updates when that happens. I don't know when it's going to happen. I didn't see when the dates were. But
if the charges were just in July, I suspect it'll be a while before we hear any updates on that one.
Yeah. There's a ton of there's way more details about this case. As it is, clearly this episode is crazy long.
Yeah.
And I cut a lot of stuff out. So if you're interested, there's a ton of information out there. And actually I think it's NBC is making a show about this whole case.
Oh,
and
really?
Renee Zellweger is playing Pam.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I think it was a show. Maybe it's a movie. No, I think it's a show.
Like a limited series or something like that.
There's going to be some kind of media out there, and Renee Zellweger's in it.
Cool. I will definitely be catching that wherever it's being played, if it's played in Canada. Sometimes those things are not available in our country. Yeah.
Well, I rambled on for a long time, so Megan, it's your turn to roll.
Okay, let's get right to it then, shall we?
Yeah, I feel like we should cut the chit chat.
This episode has had me, oh my god, I'm wilding right now. Okay, that's not bad. It's a 12. My category is I seem to have caught affluenza.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's very interesting. Okay. Yes, I will. I
love cases of affluenza because they just hurt my brain.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one for sure. I am looking forward to creating a story about that one.
No, you're not creating a story.
You're
finding a true crime story.
No, okay.
Don't create
You know
crime,
what I
please.
mean. I'm not creating it. Okay, I know how that sounds. I swear I'm not creating it. All right. So thank you everybody for joining us. If you would like to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, we are on there as the Grimdark Diaries. And we're also on Twitter. We are just Grimdark Diaries on Twitter. And if you want to send us over an email, you can reach us at thegrimdarkdiaries@gmail.com. And if you are on Apple Podcasts right now listening to us, please head over and go to our page. Give us a 5-star rating and give us a nice little comment if you do like us. And if you're on any other podcast platform, just if you have the ability to give us a like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is that you guys want to do. Thank you. We appreciate all of your support. Join us next week to see what I come up with for I Seem to Have Caught Affluenza. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.